Well, it took till week 13, but the Jets' frustrations are now finally spilling out into the press, and it's starting to get ugly. Another loss, another blown lead, this time to Geno Smith, to Leonard Williams with a big pick six, and Rodgers did not play well. Now they're talking about benching Rodgers. They have come out, though, in the last hour, and they have said that Rodgers will start the game next weekend against Miami. And listen, it's not going to get any better. I told you it was going to get worse before it got better. And here it is. The Jets lose yesterday. They blow a 14-point lead. Leonard Williams with the big play, the 92-yard pick six off of Rodgers in the second quarter when they were driving. Like I said, Rodgers will start, but he is not helping his situation out either, because he's throwing his own teammates under the bus when he's asked, what's going on? What's the problem? And he basically said that, well, it's not all me. There's 11 of us out there. And that's not what a leader does. That's not what a leader on a team does. A quarterback takes responsibility. He's not taking responsibility. He's basically pushing it off, saying, well, I'm doing my part. Every once in a while, I might make a mistake. But, there's a lot of other people out there that could be blamed. No, you're the quarterback. When you win, you get too much credit. When you lose, you take the blame. And if anybody knows that, it's Rodgers. He knows that. And as he's trying now here, he's kind of just planting the seeds for his exit. He's not going to be back next year. I can't imagine any scenario where he comes back next year. I mean, he was not good again yesterday. 21 of 39, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Really 3 touchdowns, one of them for the other team. Geno Smith, 20 of 31, 206, and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers getting outplayed every week by the other quarterback. Whether it be Geno Smith or the rookie in Indianapolis or the second-year quarterback in Arizona. It's ugly. He can't play anymore. He's average to below average this year. And that's not going to cut it. The Jets are 3-9. The Bills just won the division yesterday. We'll get to that in a minute. And we'll have our power rankings as we have a new top team in the Locked Up Sports Power 5. And we will also have our call of the day coming up when we go around the league. But the Jets, like I said, now it's getting ugly. Now the infighting starting. They're starting to call each other out in the media after the games, and that's where it's going to get real ugly. And you watch. Because Rodgers is now blaming the teammates, right? He's not playing well. That pick six was his fault. That's what turned the game around. The Jets had a 14-point lead. And then it went right down to 7, and then the defense allows a late drive all the way down the field without any resistance. Geno Smith took him right down the field, stuck it in the end zone. And then the Jets could do nothing with it on their subsequent drive. And they go on 4th down. He throws it deep. He throws a deep fly pattern, and the receiver's running a post. And that signifies that basically is the story of the Jets. They're not on the same page with each other. They never got on the same page with each other. Rodgers and his teammates. Rodgers was treated separately. He was treated differently than everybody else. He was allowed to miss practice. He was the one who basically hired the coaching staff, hired the offensive coordinator, hired the head coach, kept the head coach here longer than he probably should have been. Now he's endorsing this new head coach who's this interim head coach who's just a complete disaster. And they're 3-9, and that's what happens when you're 3-9. The Jets, it's just all falling apart. Rodgers is nowhere near. He's a shell of himself now. Whether he's hurt or he's not hurt, listen, it doesn't really matter. Bottom line is he's not playing well, and the team is losing. They've lost 8 of 9 games. They're 3-9. They are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And now the frustration is starting to pour out into the media. And like I said, this is the same thing that happened last year, right? Remember when they were basically had half the team in the mutiny against the quarterback saying that, oh, he can't play. He's not. It's the same thing because it's a losing team. And when losing teams get to this point in the season and everybody can see the writing on the wall that none of these coaches are going to be there, so it doesn't really matter how you play. The fans don't care. Nobody's watching. They're frustrated. The older players are frustrated. The younger players are frustrated. It all collapses in on itself. The owner's a joke. And that's what happens. And they're not going to win many. I'd be surprised if they win another game this year. They could very easily be 3-14. The Giants and Jets will probably have. There's a very good chance that they will have the first and second pick in the draft coming up. I mean, come on. You got Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones on the Vikings. You got Geno Smith coming into into MetLife Stadium, taking a game-winning drive down the field to beat the Jets. You got Leonard Williams with a 92-yard pick six off of Aaron Rodgers, and then you got the Jets blaming each other in the media after the game. Now, the coach said yesterday, he said stuff that kind of inferred that maybe he's thinking about a quarterback change. Who cares? Let him change the quarterback. Who cares? Rodgers probably doesn't even want to play anymore at this point. I mean, would you? He's only doing damage to his legacy at this point. There's nothing he could do. And then people be like, oh, the season's officially. Listen, the season was over 6 weeks ago against New England. I mean, come on. They weren't going to run the table. And even if they ran the table, which was impossible to happen, they still would have needed help. So that's what the Jets are right now. And like I said, they named Rodgers. They came out today and I guess corrected it and said, listen, Rodgers is the starter. He's starting next week. Is it on a week-to-week basis? Maybe. I don't think Rodgers really would even mind losing the job at this point. You want to go out there every week and get your ass kicked? Go and face the media after you play bad. He knows. He can see. He can see the tape and the film during the week. He knows he's not any good anymore. And it's nobody beats time. And it got him. Last year he missed the whole year. This year he came back and he never played really well. Never. From day one. And you could blame that he didn't go to the summer workouts. He kind of made his own rule. They had his own set of rules. Whatever it is, the bottom line is he got old. He can't make the plays that he used to make. And he's an ordinary quarterback now. A quarterback that gets outplayed by Geno Smith. A quarterback that's 3-9. Who's now frustrated with the fact that his talents aren't there like they used to be. So he's blaming everybody else because it can't possibly be him. Well, it is him. 21 of 39 for 185 yards and a pick six. That's not Hall of Fame numbers. That's a below average quarterback. And that's a quarterback that gets beat by somebody like Geno Smith. So that's what's going on with the Jets. They go to Miami next week. That Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback, supposedly. And you even have Breece Hall. That was a big fumble. Listen, Breece Hall fumbles. He puts the ball on the ground way too often. You can't do that as a running back. The one thing you can't do is fumble the football and turn it over because it will kill you every time. And that was a huge fumble he had in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was an excellent tackle. The guy put his shoulder right on the ball, but you can't. There's no excuse. You got to hold on to the ball. You can't fumble. The Giants, they were ready to run Tiki Barber out of town. Remember when he was fumbling? If you're a running back and you start fumbling, you're useless. I don't care how many yards you get, how many touchdowns you get. If you're fumbling the football, you're useless and you will lose your job. And Breece Hall fumbles the football. It's kind of lost in this whole season because it's a lost season. There's so many things going wrong. But Breece Hall has a fumbling problem. And that's something moving forward that if they're going to keep him on this team as the running back, because he's still young, he's not bad, he's a good runner, he's a tough runner, he's a tough kid, but he puts the ball on the ground, and that's got to be fixed. Got to be fixed. That was one of the main culprits in that loss yesterday, right along with the pick six, along with the defense allowing the Seattle to go right down the field in the end of the game. But that stuff happens every week. You can't have your running back putting the ball on the ground, especially if you're a team that's not very good. And to be honest with you, I think maybe after next week, maybe they do it. Just bench Rodgers, cut him, move on. It's time to move on. It's over. Didn't work. We know it didn't work. You knew it didn't work 6 weeks ago. Stop trying to stop putting him out there. It's just torture for your fans, for your organization, for him personally. It's over. End it. Cut him. He will end his career, and hopefully for his sake, people don't remember too much about this little 2-year stint in New York, but the New Yorkers will remember it, and the Jets fans will remember it, and it's a disaster that we have never seen before. So that's the Jets. Nothing new. They lost. They stink. They're out of it. 3-9. They've lost 8 of 9. It's nothing new there. There were some other good 1:00 games. You had Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, which got a little hairy for Pittsburgh. Notice it was a complete shootout, right? Pittsburgh had 520 yards of offense, 400 passing yards, over 100 yards rushing. They scored 44 points. They won 44-38. Cincinnati made a late push in this game that they needed an onside kick after they scored a late touchdown. They didn't get it. They ended up losing by 6. And Pittsburgh, because of what happened in the 4:00 window with Baltimore, now has a cushion and now controls their own destiny in that division. And the 4:00 window, the big game, was the big game of the day. It was Baltimore hosting the Eagles. 2 running backs going head-to-head, possibly MVP candidates, which they're not. The quarterback wins an MVP. I don't care what happens. Unless Saquon Barkley breaks the record, and I still don't think he would win it, he doesn't have a chance. It's going to be Josh Allen at this point right now. Today it's Josh Allen. But the 4:00 game, the Eagles and the Ravens, and it was an ugly game. The difference in this one had Justin Tucker again missing field goals. He missed 2 field goals and an extra point. Listen, if he was anybody else, throughout basically the course of NFL history, he would be without a job. They're sticking with him. Harbaugh even came out, gave him a vote of confidence after the game. He's missing kicks all over the place. Extra points all over the place. Field goals he made in his sleep for the last 15 years. He's missing. He missed 2 field goals yesterday. They lost by 5 points. He missed 2 field goals and an extra point. He left 7 points on the field. And the Ravens lost by 5. And now the Ravens got to be careful. They're 8-5. They went from, playing real well. Then they ran into the Steelers. They lost that game. They beat the Bengals. And then it's just kind of, they're playing, they've been very mediocre over the last 3 weeks. Basically over the last month, they've been very mediocre. They're now 8-5. The Eagles have solidified their top Super Bowl potential candidacy as they are now 10-2. They've won 8 games in a row. And, like I said, this game was a playoff-like atmosphere, low scoring defense, not a lot of offense. I don't think Lamar Jackson was great. The Eagles defense, though, was fantastic. They buckled down. They made plays when they needed to. They got off the field when they needed to. But the difference was the greatest place kicker in NFL history, who has been one of the worst kickers in the league this year, missed 2 field goals, 1 from 47, 1 from 53, and he missed an extra point. He left 7 points on the field, and his team lost by 5. And Harbaugh gave him a vote of confidence, and I don't know what you do here. Because, listen, if he figures it out, which it's clearly mental, if he figures it out, he could be back to being a huge asset, which he's been forever for this team. But if this continues, they're going to lose a playoff game. Or even worse, maybe even miss the playoffs. They're 8-5. Nothing is guaranteed for them anymore. They're going to have to win some games. And they're playing tight games. They're playing good teams. And it's going to be field goals that could be the difference. And if you got Justin Tucker going out there and shanking field goals and missing extra points, then you're in big trouble. Big trouble. But the Eagles, to go on the road into a tough place to play like Baltimore, get outplayed, but their defense, they really bared down when they needed to inside the red zone. They held them to field goal attempts. They missed a couple. He made a couple. And the Eagles came back. They roared back. They got a 24-19 win. And they are now 10-2, and they're one of the top teams in the NFC. The Bills, the Sunday night game, and this was a clinic for the Bills. The Niners, the Niners are all banged up. We know they're not a great team this year. We know they've been struggling. They've had injuries everywhere. But Josh Allen and the Bills in the game in the snow. I mean, you had Purdy, who hasn't been good this year. But let's be real. Let's call a spade a spade. Purdy has not been good at all this year. And he went into the elements yesterday, and he was 11 for 18 for 94 yards with no touchdowns, no picks. They couldn't throw the ball. The Bills, with the leader in the clubhouse right now for the MVP, Josh Allen, 13 of 17, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he has just been fantastic. And they blew this game open in the first quarter. By mid-second quarter, it was 27-3, and it was over. They ended up winning 35-10. The Bills are, we're going to talk about them in the power rankings in just a little bit, but the Bills have put their foot down in the AFC and said, we are the best team. The Chargers and Falcons played another weird game if you look at the stats. Okay, 17-13, the Chargers won. But listen to these stats. Total yards, Falcons 350, 187 for the Chargers. Passing yards, 234 for the Falcons, 131 for the Chargers. Rushing yards, 56 for the Chargers, 116 for the Falcons. Third down conversions, both were bad. 3 for 11 for the Chargers, 3 for 14 for the Falcons. And you want to know how big turnovers are and not throw picks and not put the ball on the ground? Because here's the only stat that the Chargers let in. Interceptions. Kirk Cousins threw 4 of them. The Chargers didn't turn the ball over. Every other stat is completely tilted towards Atlanta, except the turnovers. 4-0. Kirk Cousins threw 4 picks. He played terrible. And the Chargers win the game. They were outplayed in every aspect of that game. They forced four interceptions, and they win the game. They're 8-4. And I told you the Chargers a couple of weeks ago that they're coming. They're quiet. People aren't talking about them. They got a good coach. They got a good quarterback, and they're going to be dangerous when they get in the playoffs. They're now ahead of the Ravens in the playoff spot. It's completely turned around for the Chargers. And listen, I still don't trust the Chargers in a big game. They never win a big game. We've seen the Chargers for 20 years, this Chargers team. 8-4, really looking good in December, in the beginning of December, and they just fade away. They either fade away and miss the playoffs, or they fade away, get into the playoffs, and do nothing in there. So until I see them get into the playoffs and do some damage in there, I can't really trust them. But they do have one of the best football coaches in America, and they do have one of the best 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the game today, as far as I'm concerned. And that brings us to the Locked Up Sports call of the day, and it comes to you courtesy of Westwood One from the Bills and the Niners game last night. It's Ryan Radke and Ross Tucker on the call. This is the Locked Up Sports call of the day.
First and goal from the 7. Here's the snap. Allen back. Fires left side. Cooper makes a one-handed catch. Pitches it back to Allen. Allen racing. Dive to the left pylon. And he's in. Touchdown Bills. What a play. Allen threw it behind Cooper. He made a one-handed catch as he was falling to the ground. He pitched it back to Allen. And Allen went diving in. That's one of the best touchdowns you'll ever see. And the Bills have taken a 27-3 lead.
That was not by design. It's a slant to Amari Cooper. He was going down. He saw Josh Allen running past him, so he lateraled it back to him, and then Josh Allen, like you've seen him do so often, went airborne Superman for the pylon. What a touchdown.
Ryan Radke, Ross Tucker, Westwood One Radio. That is the call of the day. And that was the signature play in the game last night. I mean, that was it. That blew the game wide open and made it 28-3 in the second quarter. And the Bills ended up just in a rout, putting their foot down and saying that we are the best team in the NFL. And that brings us to our top 5 teams in the NFL. We have the Power 5, the Locked Up Sports Power 5. After Week 13 here on Locked Up Sports, it is the Locked Up Sports Power 5. We have a new entrance into the Power 5. It's the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings who they struggled a bit yesterday through the first 3 quarters. They put their foot on the gas and they passed the Tennessee Titans, a bad Tennessee Titans team. But the Vikings, right on the heels of the Lions with the Eagles, are number 5 in our Power 5 this week. Number 4, it's the Eagles. The Eagles, some people think they might be higher. Listen, they went in, they won a good road game yesterday. They beat a good team in the Ravens, but a team that has not played very well. But their defense showed up. Listen, the Eagles are a good team. They're going to be a formidable out in January in the playoffs. Number 3, I got the Chiefs. Now, I know the Chiefs are 11-1. I know they have the best record in football. To me, they're just kind of walking a tightrope. I'll play with fire almost every week. They could have 4, 5 losses. They could have absolutely lost this last week to the Raiders. They could have lost the game to the Broncos where they blocked the field goal. They could have lost the overtime game to Tampa. There's a couple games where they just kind of skated by. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't sleep on the Chiefs. They're the 2-time defending champions. They could flip the switch at any time and make a run and three-peat. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Number 2, I have the Lions. Now, I know a lot of people have the Lions 1. To me, it's 1 and 1A with these 2 teams. I put the Lions second because I think they struggled a bit this week. I think they could have lost the game to the Bears. I think they probably should have lost the game to the Bears. They played a good first half. They just didn't look right in the second half. Maybe they were just kind of coasting. They knew they had it, and then they got caught up. But they should have lost that game, and that's why they're number 2. And at number 1, the best team in the NFL for Week 13 on the Locked Up Sports Power 5, it's the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have Josh Allen, who is the leading candidate for the MVP up to this point. A lot of football to be played, but he's the leading candidate in the MVP race. He is a dynamic runner, a big guy. He's hard to bring down. He can throw the ball. He could play in the elements, which is always important in January. And last night was just a dismantling of the 49ers. Even though they're a beat-up team, not as good this year. Brock Purdy, let's call it as it is. He has not been great this year. But they went up there and they got dismantled by the Bills and Josh Allen and that defense for the Buffalo Bills. And they are number 1 in the Locked Up Sports Power 5. So just to recap, it's the Vikings at 5, the Eagles at 4, the Chiefs at 3, the Lions at 2, and the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the NFL today. And that is why they are number 1 on the Locked Up Sports Power 5. And that brings us to tonight's game, Monday Night Football, 8:15, Westwood 1 on the radio, ESPN on the television, ESPN 2 for the Manning cast. It is the Broncos, and it's the Broncos hosting the Browns. Now, the line is 6.5. The Broncos have been playing well lately. They're 7-5. They are right there for a playoff spot, right in the thick of it. A win tonight would take a big step towards making the playoffs, putting them at 8-5. They're playing the Browns, who are really just playing out the string. They got a good win last week, a good win in a meaningless season, but maybe they can build on it. The Broncos at times have struggled to score points. Not lately, but at times this year they have struggled. I think they struggle a little bit again tonight. The line is 6.5. Take the points. I'm going to say the Browns plus the 6.5. I think the Broncos win, but I think they win probably with a late field goal. And you take the points, the 6.5, and you'll be clear with the cover and cash in a ticket. So that's going to do it for us here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember, you can always find us anywhere you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. You can visit us at our website at lockedupsports.net, lockedupsports.net. You can also email the show, questions, comments, anything you got to say, at lockedupsportshow@gmail.com, lockedupsportshow@gmail.com. And always follow us on social media. We are on all the big social medias. So that's going to do it. Enjoy the game tonight, everybody. Enjoy your Monday night. It's the Browns and the Broncos. It's coming up next on ESPN. From the Brian Gunzel Studios, I'm Bob Walters. See ya.